A powerful storm system is about to impact the United States, and this will bring the return of significant severe weather. This includes damaging winds, large hail, and even strong tornadoes. Additionally, this storm will bring tons of rainfall from the Great Plains through the Ohio Valley over the next few days. Lastly, the tropics are heating up quickly. We now have 3 areas that we are watching in the Atlantic Ocean, including a Category 4 hurricane just to the east of Bermuda. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next 7 days, and we'll begin with what's happening across the country today. And right now we have a big storm that is currently forming in the Central Plains. Our low pressure system is actually centered over Colorado. Believe it or not, it's actually snowing this morning back over in the higher elevations just to the west of Denver. We're actually anticipating 4 to 8 inches of snowfall in some of those areas. But on the flip side of things, we have all sorts of thunderstorms that have fired up from last night that have moved across Kansas and Oklahoma, and we are expecting the potential for significant severe weather this afternoon and evening across parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, and Missouri. And then as we go into tomorrow, that severe weather will shift further to the east to include areas like the Ohio Valley all the way through the Gulf Coast. Now let's talk more about the severe weather potential over the next few days, and we'll begin with today, which is Tuesday, and the Storm Prediction Center for the time being has a slight risk of severe weather in place in parts of Texas, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. Marginal threat goes from Kentucky back into central Texas. Now notice I did say this is just for now, because I do think the Storm Prediction Center will add an enhanced risk of severe weather at some point later this morning to parts of eastern Oklahoma and also western Arkansas, where strong tornadoes will be a possibility this afternoon. It is a conditional risk, but any discrete supercells that form this afternoon in a more unstable environment and also in our warm sector, which is where all the warm and moist air is, will have the capability of producing strong tornadoes. And I wouldn't even rule out a tornado outbreak today. It's definitely not impossible to happen. The biggest kicker for today's event is that we currently have a line of storms moving through this morning, which as that continues to track to the east, the further it goes into that warm sector, the lesser chance we're going to have of tornadoes today. So if that area of showers and thunderstorms were to go through all of central Arkansas and all of eastern Oklahoma, there really wouldn't be much of a chance of significant severe weather this afternoon. However, if our atmosphere can destabilize fast enough and we don't see a whole lot of rain over the next few hours, it looks like it'll be a very active afternoon and evening. Right now, we do have an elevated risk for damaging winds. Also, very large hail is a possibility this afternoon from very far northern North Texas back into far northwestern Arkansas, back over near Rogers and also through Fort Smith, where we could see some hailstones as large as the size of baseballs out of initial supercells this afternoon. The tornado risk, again, is more elevated. We do have a 5% tornado risk, which does include Fort Smith, and just to the northwest there of Little Rock, Arkansas, near Fayetteville and Rogers. So definitely make sure that you're staying weather aware, have a tornado action plan ready to go, and we will likely be live later today covering the severe weather event, assuming that the tornado threat does transpire. So definitely click the bell icon down below so you're notified when we do go live. On Wednesday, the threat of severe weather will continue for millions across the country, anywhere from the Gulf Coast all the way through the Ohio Valley, where damaging winds is going to be the main concern, but I could see there being a couple of tornadoes during the afternoon hours, mainly across Kentucky, Tennessee, parts of Mississippi, and maybe far northern Alabama, so have ways to receive warnings on Wednesday. Now, for the month of September, today's tornado risk is actually very elevated. We don't typically see tornado setups quite like this during the month of September, but in the southern plains, we are beginning to enter that second severe weather season. This is what our significant tornado parameter values look like this afternoon. We really have 2 areas to watch for, one of which is going to be back over here in parts of southwestern Missouri, far northeastern Oklahoma near Tulsa, and extreme southeastern Kansas, and then another one will be right along a boundary in Arkansas all the way back into eastern Oklahoma near the Fort Smith area. So there's 2 areas that we need to watch for this afternoon. This will be mainly afternoon hours, so we're not really looking at much of a nocturnal severe weather event out of this particular event. As we go into the late evening and overnight hours, there will be at least a low-end chance for an isolated tornado, but mainly a wind threat back over in far eastern Texas and southern Arkansas. But generally speaking, our tornado threat will be peaking between about 2 and 7 o'clock. Now, as we go into Wednesday, that threat of severe weather will continue further to the east, and I do foresee there being at least a tornado or 2 on Wednesday across parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, perhaps even Mississippi and Alabama, but generally speaking, it should be a low-end threat. Now, here's the timing of severe weather for today. Storms currently are pushing across northeast Oklahoma and extreme southwestern Missouri. Biggest concern this morning is damaging winds, with a brief tornado being a possibility. By lunchtime, those storms will continue to track across Arkansas, and then by 2 to 3 o'clock is when we do anticipate some discrete storms to begin to fire off, mainly with that line back over in northwestern Arkansas. The greatest concern, again, being damaging winds winds and hail. I do think there will be a tornado or two out of those storms that do fire up. And then right behind that, we'll have to keep an eye on this little area here behind all those other storms that may be able to produce an isolated tornado. There will be plenty of spin in the atmosphere, even back up near Joplin and Tulsa, where any storms that fire up behind this line of thunderstorms could also produce an isolated tornado or two, but the strong tornado risk would definitely be lower. By 6 o'clock, storms are going to become more widespread anywhere from Dallas, Fort Worth, and through Abilene, Texas, all the way towards Memphis, Tennessee. Damaging winds will become the dominant concern after 6 to 7 o'clock, and then by 9 to 10 o'clock tonight, storms will continue across Arkansas, Texas, and Louisiana, before eventually Wednesday morning, we're going to continue to see some scattered showers and thunderstorms closer to the Gulf Coast, and then colder weather will push in right behind this. A nice little breather of weather for parts of Oklahoma and Texas. Most areas will drop by 10 to 15 degrees as we go into Wednesday afternoon. And then back over in the Ohio Valley, most of us will be quiet this morning, but by the mid to late afternoon and early evening, there will be a round of storms that'll push across Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee, with some gusty winds, small hail being a possibility, and also some lightning. And then Wednesday is when we're going to be watching for plenty of showers, really overnight Tuesday into Wednesday. Lots of showers and storms out there, which will help to basically relieve that drought that is ongoing. But really the bigger story will be Wednesday afternoon, is when we'll be watching for some pop-up showers and thunderstorms across Kentucky, Missouri, all the way through Mississippi. Any of these storms in this environment will be capable of damaging winds, and I do think there will at least be a tornado or two out of this event, maybe even an isolated land spout. I think our greatest tornado and wind threat will likely reside right in this region, so back over near Paducah and also over near Clarksville, Tennessee. Stay weather aware on Wednesday for the potential for some scattered damaging winds and a low tornado risk. And then as we go into Thursday, the threat of severe weather will continue along the East Coast. I foresee there being some damaging winds and hail anywhere from New York all the way back into parts of Virginia. There will be a low-end tornado risk back over in Pennsylvania and New York on Thursday as well if we get any discrete supercells. Generally speaking, though, this will be a pretty short-lived threat, mainly during the afternoon. By about sunset, most of the storms will be moving offshore with just some scattered showers and maybe isolated storms left over New Jersey, Delaware, and far eastern Maryland. And then on Friday, things are really drying out for most of the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. Now, over the next few days, this storm will continue to bring plenty of showers and thunderstorms to the Ohio Valley all the way through the Gulf Coast. Late Thursday and then early Friday is when the storm system will move offshore and high pressure will build across the Ohio Valley and also through the southern plains, making things a lot drier and also nice and cool for the most part, I think, through the end of the week. And then by early next week, we're going to start to see the warm weather return again. We will be keeping an eye on the tropics. We may see something develop just east of Florida by around Tuesday or Wednesday. The National Hurricane Center has a medium chance of development right now for this disturbance that could develop by middle of next week and perhaps go towards the East Coast. And then eventually by the end of next week, I'm not expecting any big severe weather events in the near horizon. I do not see anything really like what we're seeing right now that looks overly impressive when it comes to severe weather or even flooding rainfall. So I think overall, this is going to be the big storm. And then after that, we're going to have to really keep an eye on the tropics and then maybe another sneaky storm as we go into early October. And this storm system is also going to bring plenty of beneficial rainfall over the next 48 hours. A widespread 1 to 3 inches of rain is in the forecast between now all the way through the end of Thursday for the bulk of the Ohio Valley, including Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Also back into Northeast Texas, there will likely be some localized locations as well that pick up somewhere around 4 to 6 inches of rainfall. So localized flooding is a possibility, but generally speaking, this will definitely help the drought situation. And we've also got to talk about the tropics because things are actually heating up very quickly. We now have 3 areas that we're keeping an eye on, one of which is Hurricane Gabrielle just east of Bermuda. This became a Category 4 hurricane yesterday, which was actually pretty surprising, granted its environment, but it really exploded and it looks pretty impressive, which I'll show you that here in a moment. We also have a high chance of development right behind Gabrielle. This will likely end up going out to sea as well, more than likely going towards Bermuda. So if you are in Bermuda or have interest in Bermuda, definitely be keeping an eye on this tropical wave. And then this right here is the area that we need to really keep an eye on in the United States. As we go into mid next week, this could end up becoming a tropical storm as it moves to the north and northwest. If this were to form, I do think the East Coast will definitely have to keep an eye on it, especially near the Carolinas, because if it were to track to the north, it would more than likely go towards North or South Carolina or even Virginia. So definitely be watching this very closely. Our next forecast will go way more detail on that tropical wave. And this is what Hurricane Gabrielle looks like this morning just east of Bermuda. It is going out to sea really towards the Azores Islands, but it is a very impressive hurricane. This will not be impacting the United States, as I just mentioned, but again, very impressive looking Category 4 hurricane. The only 2 hurricanes that we've had so far this year in the Atlantic Ocean have been at the bare minimum a Category 4 now, which is pretty crazy to say. And as always, thank you all so much much for watching today's forecast. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Our next video will likely be tomorrow. If not, it'll be on Thursday, so click the bell icon so you're notified with the latest updates. There's also a pretty good chance of a live stream this afternoon with severe weather coverage with tons of storm chasers in the field, and there's also a chance of a live stream tomorrow. So stay tuned to the channel, and we'll see you guys all again in the next video or live stream.